Welcome to OiC's Easter Sunday reflection. We last posted a reflection on Maundy Thursday, and this is where we left it. There's bread and wine on the table. Jesus broke the bread and said, "This is my body," and it was. It's Sunday, and two of the disciples are on the road to Emmaus, a little town just outside of Jerusalem, and they had seen the body of Jesus broken and buried. Someone starts walking with them and asks them about their sadness, and it seems almost too difficult to have to relive it by retelling it, but they do. And the stranger listens, and then he turns their despair upside down. And he asks them, "Don't you get it? Don't you get it? Bread needs to be broken. The Messiah had to suffer these things to come into his glory." They don't understand. But he stays with them. He walks further with them. And he walks into the house and into the kitchen and sits for the meal. And they put some bread on the table. But he's the one who picks it up. And then he breaks it. And they understand. They see. It's Jesus. It's the Lord. That Thursday meal is often called the Last Supper. But it wasn't. It's Sunday morning. Mary is standing outside the tomb and she's weeping. She's seen her Lord murdered, and now it seems like even her grief is denied her as she doesn't know what to do and stares into an empty tomb that she cannot understand. And through her tears, she thinks she sees angels, and she tells them of her sorrow and of her despair. But the gardener interrupts and makes the dreaded question, "Why are you crying? Who are you looking for? Who are you crying for?" And Mary is confused, but then he calls her by name, Mary. And she knows the voice. Rabboni, teacher, Lord. But he answers, "Don't hold on to me." He tells her and he gives her instructions like he's saying, "Don't hold on to me, Mary, because I still have a lot to do." And it makes you almost want to argue with Jesus, right? What is this? Didn't you just die? Isn't death kind of when you stop? When you stop doing things? Rest in peace? Isn't that what we say? But Jesus says, what? No. I'm just getting started. You're just getting started. With me, Mary, death is just the beginning. It's just now that something new is about to begin. That Thursday meal is often called the Last Supper, but it wasn't. I think often about the sudden recognition in the eyes of the disciples in Emmaus. When Jesus breaks the bread, that moment brings them back to the upper room. And Jesus breaking the bread and saying, "This is my body," the body that they would see get broken. But it does more than that. It not only takes them instantly to that upper room, but it brings the upper room to that kitchen table. The breaking of the bread suddenly has a new taste. The presence of Christ has a new hope. Death has lost its foul smell, and now there's something fresh in the air when the bread is broken. But it's true, the stench of death doesn't leave our nostrils all that easy. reconciling resurrection life with what seems like, well, just the same old life with all of the death in it. That doesn't happen in an event, it's a walk. One of my favorite resurrection stories is in the gospel is when some of the disciples go fishing. Apparently they're not sure what to do with themselves and this new reality that is a lot less straightforward than just following Jesus around as they had done for some years. So they go fishing. And Jesus shows up on the beach. Cast your nets on the other side and you'll get plenty of fish. And Jesus recognizes this is Jesus. Peter recognizes this is the Messiah. And so he jumps off the boat and goes towards Jesus. Peter doesn't know what to do with this resurrected life. He doesn't know what to do with this risen Jesus, but he does know that he wants to be with him. When they arrive at the beach, they're bringing fish for Jesus. The fish that he had told them to fish, and they bring it. But Jesus already has bread. He has a fire and his baked bread. And again, he breaks the bread for them. He breaks the bread with them. And Jesus keeps on doing this. In the Gospels, we hear about it in the end of the Gospels. Jesus keeps on showing up and eating with his disciples. And it seems almost like he still enjoys having a meal with them. It almost seems like that was the point all along. Like suddenly for the disciples, they realized that the meals were not just an excuse that Jesus could teach them something, but that Jesus teaching them something was a way of them learning the way through which they could continue to have these meals forever. That wasn't the Last Supper. I like to think that for Peter and the other disciples, the breaking of bread on their daily tables and in the Eucharist, in the Holy Communion, that carried the memory of that day on the beach as much as it carried the memory of that day and of that dark night in the upper room. And what does it mean for us today when we break bread? What does it mean for us to live in the presence of the resurrected Christ? When we break bread, we declare and place ourselves in the truth, in the mystery, in the grace of the resurrection. When we are baptized in the name of the resurrected, of the risen Jesus Christ, we declare that the stench of death is just an aftertaste of a conquered foe. And we inhale the breath that brings the promise of fresh life. When we meet as God's people in the name of Christ, we insist that his life and his death and his life is for all of us. Today, we break bread. We break bread in our own homes, more alone than we would like to be. But this is not the last meal. It's time to break bread.